Welcome to News Mongolia, where we bring you the latest stories and updates from across the nation and beyond. I'm Matthieu. On the News Mongolia today, President of Mongolia declares national mourning. Upcoming infrastructure and environmental projects to transform Ulaanbaatar city. IFC appoints Matthieu Blan as the resident representative for Mongolia. For the news, stay tuned. The President of Mongolia, Khurelsukh, has issued a decree to declare one day of national mourning in honor of the late Ulaanbaatar Ulaanbaatar, the country's first president and former chairman of the Presidium of the People's Great Hall of the Mongolian People's Republic. Ulaanbaatar, a prominent statesman and recipient of the Chinggis Khan Order, passed away on January 17, 2025, at the age of 83 due to illness, marking a great loss for the nation. According to the decree, the national flag will be flown half-mast at a 45-degree angle from its pole from 7 a.m. on January 24th until midnight on January 25th, 2025, as announced by the Office of the President. Ulaanbaatar city is set to witness a series of transformative projects between 2025 and 2028 aimed at addressing critical urban challenges such as traffic congestion and air pollution. Following a meeting of the Performance Monitoring Unit led by the Prime Minister of Mongolia, several initiatives have been outlined to improve infrastructure and environmental sustainability in the capital.
Major infrastructure developments for 2025 include the Ulaanbaatar Metro project with the tender process beginning in March 2025 and construction slated to start in September 2025. The Ulaanbaatar Tram project, a tender announcement of which is expected in June, with the first operational tram line targeted for 2028. The toll highway and the new ring road with feasibility studies and tenders to be conducted this year, with these projects expected to significantly alleviate traffic congestion, restoring flow to levels seen in 2008 to 2009. To reduce air pollution and improve the urban environment, the following measures will be implemented. Green zone expansion. Areas including the Moscow micro-district, Bayinhoshu, and Hotol will be developed into green zones, reducing air pollution by 15%. Liquefied gas line connections. Work will commence this month to connect households in green zones to gas lines. Public transportation upgrades. Tenders will be announced in February to transition public transport buses and other vehicles to run on electricity or liquefied fuel. Heating system modernization. Exhaust filters for heating boilers and thermal power plants will be upgraded to reduce emissions. The Performance Monitoring Unit operating under the Prime Minister is tasked with monitoring and ensuring the progress of these initiatives.
Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
The International Finance Corporation, part of the World Bank Group, has named Matthieu Blan as its resident representative in Mongolia. Based in Ulaanbaatar, Blan will oversee IFC's investment and advisory programs aimed at economic diversification, job creation, and sustainable growth in line with the World Bank Group's priorities. With over 25 years of experience in the private sector and infrastructure development across Central Europe, the Caucasus, Central Asia, and Mongolia, Blan previously served as Mongolia's country representative for the Global Green Growth Institute, working on solar heating and energy efficiency projects. Since 1997, IFC has mobilized over $5 billion for Mongolia, supporting sectors such as sustainable mining, banking, and renewable energy. Blan expressed his enthusiasm to work with local partners to tackle Mongolia's development challenges and drive positive outcomes. On January 16, 2025, the Mineral Resources Expert Council under Mongolia's Ministry of Industry and Mineral Resources held its expanded 2024 meeting. The Council approved amendments to the technical and economic feasibility study for in-situ leach mining at the Zovchawa and Dolangol uranium deposits in Darngo Province's Ultitsom. The project is set to span multiple phases, with construction planned from 2025 to 2028, production operations running from 2028 to 2060, and mine closure and monitoring scheduled for 2060 to 2070. Once operational, the project aims to produce an average of 2,500 tons of uranium annually, while contributing significantly to Mongolia's economy, notably $1.67 billion in total investment and $329.06 million allocated for mine closure and reclamation, $4.6 billion expected for state and local budgets. As one of 14 mega projects in the government's 2024 to 2028 action program, it is the second largest foreign investment agreement with a third neighbor nation. The project will not only boost economic growth and foreign investment, but also diversify Mongolia's mining exports with a focus on uranium while introducing advanced technologies and fostering regional development.
You're watching News Mongolia. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Now let's take a look at international news from our partner agencies. The European Commission says it's concerned by US President Donald Trump's announcement that the US will withdraw from the World Health Organization. Trump has issued an executive action on the first day back in the White House to begin the process of withdrawing the US from the World Health Organization for the second time in less than 5 years.
If we want to be resilient to the global health threats, we need to have a global cooperation in the health area. We see with concerns the announcement to withdraw from the WHO organization by the United States, and we trust that the US administration will consider all this ahead of the formal withdrawal.
Trump made a similar move in 2020, only to have former US President Joe Biden reverse it in 2021. Many scientists fear that this action could roll back decade-long gains made in fighting infectious diseases like AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis. Experts have also cautioned that withdrawing from the organization could weaken the world's defense against dangerous new outbreaks capable of triggering pandemics.
There is no better example than the COVID pandemics. We have learned our lesson. We have seen that virus doesn't stop at the border and that we need a global cooperation in the health area. Regarding the effectiveness of WHO, there is always a space for improvement, but we would like to engage in a possible reform of the WHO. I think the solution is that we need a common solution for the common problems, and if we want to have a reform of the WHO, then we need to be engaged in it.
In the last decade, the US has given World Health Organization about $160 million to $815 million every year. World Health Organization's yearly budget is about $2 billion to $3 billion. Losing US funding could cripple numerous global health initiatives, including the effort to eradicate polio, maternal and child health programs, and research to identify new viral threats. Attendees at Ukraine-related events at the World Economic Forum in Davos gathered to listen to US President Donald Trump's inauguration speech on Monday. Trump has pledged to broker a peace deal in Ukraine, but as he prepares to take office, peace seems as elusive as ever.
Moscow and Kiev are seeking battlefield gains to strengthen their negotiating positions ahead of any prospective talks to end the three-year-old war. At Ukraine House, where delegates watched Trump's speech, Andrei Dligach, head of a coalition of business communities for the modernization of Ukraine, said he felt Ukraine should sell itself to Trump as a new opportunity.
I'd like to hear from Trump about Ukraine, about his support of Ukraine, but I understand that Trump is now looking for opportunities for the way how to negotiate with Russia. So Ukraine should sell itself to Mr. Trump, to President Trump, as the new opportunity. Ukraine is the next big thing for the Western world. Not a question mark, but an opportunity in terms of security, new economy, and adaptability.
Trump, who vowed during his campaign to settle the war in 24 hours, changed that time frame earlier this month, voicing hope that peace could be negotiated in 6 months. His nominee for envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, said a deal could be brokered in 100 days.
Europe needs its own missile defense system like Israel's Iron Dome that can deal with any kind of threat, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Tuesday. Zelensky made the comments as he attended the World Economic Forum in Davos, where he called for greater spending on defense from European nations and for a united European security and defense policy.
These kinds of questions about, let's not forget, there is no ocean separating European countries from Russia. And the European leaders should remember these battles involving North Korean soldiers are now happening in places geographically closer to Davos than to Pyongyang. Russia is turning into a version of North Korea, a country where human life means nothing. But they have nuclear weapons and a burning desire to make their neighbors' lives miserable. And we need a united European security and defense policy, and all European countries must be willing to spend as much on security as it truly needed, not just as much as they have gotten used to during years of neglect. If it takes 5% of GDP to cover defense, then so be it. 5% it is. Europe needs its own version of the Iron Dome, something that can deal with any kind of threat. We can't rely on goodwill from a few capitals when it comes to Europe's security, and whether it's Washington, Berlin, Paris, London, Rome, or after Putin kicks the bucket, some imaginary Democrat in Moscow someday needs to know how to defend.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with his Japanese counterpart on Rubio's first full day in the chief diplomatic position. The meeting comes as China is mending fences with Japan, India, and other countries that former U.S. President Joe Biden courted, just as Donald Trump brings his more unilateralist approach back to the White House.
The change of leadership in Washington could be a diplomatic opportunity for China, which has long railed against Biden's strategy of building partnerships with like-minded countries aimed at countering its growing influence. One of Biden's initiatives was to reinvigorate a grouping known as the Quad: the United States, India, Japan, and Australia. China's relations with all three of those U.S. partners are improving, as are its ties with Britain. The durability of Biden's legacy is now in question. During his first term, Trump didn't hesitate to challenge traditional U.S. partners, and he has shown a willingness to cut deals with anyone, including China.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Goodbye.